Hello everyone, how are you doing? In today's lesson I would like to teach you some ukulele basics. Okay, in this session I'm going to be taking you through the 4 most commonly used ukulele chords. So if I've taught you in the past and taught you ukulele at your school, then you will have definitely learned these chords. They're all quite simple, and what we're going to do is we're going to break them down and make them really simple and easy to understand, and then we're going to hopefully put them all together into something called a strumming pattern or a chord progression. So let's get stuck into it. Okay guys, so I thought before we get stuck into the strumming and playing the chords on the ukulele, it's really important that I go through a few things that we need to remember and a few things that we need to keep in our mind as we're playing the instrument. Alright, it's probably been a while since you've picked up your ukulele and played it. If it hasn't been a while and you've been sticking at it, that's brilliant and well done for that. But it is really important for those of us who haven't played in a while that I go through some of the real basics of the instrument. So here it is. Okay, I've got a really nice pink ukulele donated to me by my daughter because I don't have my own, but this is perfect and it's probably what your ukulele looks like. Okay, yeah, so the first thing we need to think about when we're playing the ukulele are the frets. This is probably one of the most important things that you could learn on the ukulele or even on the guitar. Alright, now the frets on a ukulele and on a guitar are not the metal bars. A lot of people get confused with that. The fret is actually the space in between the metal bars. Alright, so if we were to put our finger in fret number 3, 1, 2, 3, okay, as you can see I've got my finger in between these metal bars and you get a nice sound when we play the strings. Okay, if I was to put my finger on top of the metal bar and strum that, we'll get that sound. Now that's what we call a dead note, and we don't want a dead note, we want a nice clear note. So keep that in mind when you're playing your ukulele through this lesson that we've got going on. So frets, we've got 12 frets on a ukulele. Guitar has a lot more. The main difference between a ukulele and guitar is that this only has 4 strings and the guitar has 6. Okay, and the guitar has a lot more frets to think about. So the ukulele is a really great instrument if you are interested in moving on to guitar a little bit later when you're a little bit older. Alright, so I'm going to take you through some of the chords now that you can play on the ukulele. The most commonly used chords and some of the most basic chords, and they're going to come in really handy in the future because after this lesson, after these basics, we're going to start learning some songs, and the songs that we're going to be learning do have these chords in. So it's really important that we break them down and make them really simple and easy to understand in today's session so that you can play them really well when we start learning some songs. So here we go, let's start playing some chords. Alright, so the chords that I'm going to be teaching you on the ukulele today are going to be, the first 2 chords are C and A minor. Sometimes it's written as AM. You might have seen that on music that you've learned within the past, that AM. The A stands for the note, which is A, and the little M stands for minor. Okay, so a minor chord, really quickly just to let you know, is a chord which has a little bit of the best way to describe it is like a sad sound to it. So I've got my ukulele and I'll show you an example of that. The C sounds like this. So that's a major chord and that's got quite a cheerful, happy sound to it. Now if I play the A minor on the ukulele, it has a slightly sadder sound to it. So if you're playing minor chords on the guitar or on the ukulele, that's the difference in them. A lot of people ask me that question, what's the difference between a minor and a major chord? And it's really simple. One sounds happy, one sounds sad. So we've got the C and we've got the A minor. Alright, they're the first 2 chords that I'm going to show you how to play. And I'm also going to help you understand these diagrams, which are called chord diagrams or chord charts. And they're really easy to understand if you break it down. And the next 2 chords that I'm going to show you how to play are an F and a G. Alright, so I would say out of all the chords that I'm showing you, the G is probably going to be the hardest one you're going to learn today. Alright, or will get there with practice. Alright, so let's have a look at these chord diagrams and let me explain to you how they work and how we can read them and how we can understand them, because it's not just in these lessons on the YouTube channel that you're going to be learning these chord charts. You'll probably see them when you get back to school as well with your ukulele teacher, whether that's me or somebody else. So this is what a chord chart looks like. Let's look at the C. Let's break it down and figure out how we're going to read this. this chord chart is basically a diagram of your ukulele, alright? It's a diagram of the fretboard of the ukulele. The fretboard is this here, alright? The neck of the fretboard. So, if I have a look at that C diagram, you can see that we've got that thicker line at the top there. Now on our ukulele, that's a white line on the top, okay? So, diagram of the ukulele, it is an exact copy, alright? So, as you can see on the diagram, we also have a dot. Now that dot is telling us where we need to put our fingers, or our finger in this case. So it's telling us, this is how we read the diagram, this way, alright? So it's saying we need to put one of our fingers on the bottom string, fret number 3, because it's on the bottom line of the diagram and it's in the 3rd fret along, or the 3rd box along. So that would look like this. So I would go on my bottom string and I'm going to move along to fret number 1, 2, 3, alright? And that is a C. The best way to play a chord on the ukulele, or on the guitar in fact, is not to use the flat part of your finger. We don't want to use the flat part, we want to use the tip of our finger, okay? So we're going to do a thing called arching our finger. So you can see, if I turn to the side there, I'm slightly arching it, and I'm using the tip of my finger, and I'm pushing down on that string as hard as I can without really hurting my finger. Now it's easy for me because I've been playing for years, so it's quite easy for me to push down on the string, but it might not be the same for you. So if you're getting a sound like this and it's not quite coming through, be patient with yourself and just know that it could be one of two things. The first thing is, like we spoke about, you might be pushing down on the metal bar and not in between the metal bars. And the second thing might be because you're in the right place, but you're not pushing down hard enough. So we need to get a nice firm grip on the string, push down nice and hard, and we can get the C there. So once again, we're on the very bottom string, so that's the 4th string down, and we're in fret number 3, 1, 2, 3, and I'm using my thumb to just gently brush down on the strings, okay? It's like a brushing motion, I think. We don't want to be pushing down really hard like that, because that's going to make your ukulele go out of tune, and it's also going to it's not going to sound great. It needs to be a nice light strum on the strings, and that's going to make it sound as good as it can. Alright, the next chord that we need to look at is the A minor. Now we've looked at how we use these chord charts and how we use these chord diagrams, so I think we'll be able to figure out the A minor quite easily. We're going to tip it up like we're done with the C. In fact, I'm going to fold it over, so we'll use that a little bit better. Alright, so what that diagram is telling us is that we need to be on the top string now and in the 2nd fret. So there's the diagram, and that's how we're going to figure it out. So we're on the top string now, and I'm on the fret number 1, number 2, alright? So there we go, and again, lightly brushing over the strings, and I've got the finger arched, and I'm pushing down on top of that string, alright? If you're getting that sound, don't get frustrated. With a good bit of practice, the sound's going to come out nice and clear over time, right? So you have got to be patient with yourself. So that's our A minor. They're the 2 easiest chords I would say you could learn on the ukulele, because we're using one finger and we're strumming all of the strings together. So it's not too much to think about. Alright, we're just popping down one finger and we're giving it a good strum. The next 2 chords are slightly harder because we're going to be using more than one finger, alright, and we're going to be using more than one fret. So let's have a look at these next 2 chords. The first one being the F. Let's have a look at that diagram. So there it is, there's our diagram. Okay, so once again, fold this over so we can see a little bit better. So that's our F, that's our ukulele. So one finger is on the top string in fret number 2, and we also have a second dot, or a second finger, and that is in the 3rd string down on fret number 1. So how's that going to look on my ukulele? I'll show you. We number our fingers in ukulele: finger number 1, finger number 2, finger number 3, and our little finger is finger number 4. So I'm going to use finger number 2, and I'm going to put it on fret 2 on the top string, and then I'm going to use my 1st finger and I'm going to put that on fret number 1 on the 3rd string down. So it looks like this, if you can get a nice close-up view of that. 2nd finger fret number 2 on the top string, right in between those two metal bars, and first finger, third string down, fret number 1. Still arching my fingers and still pushing down nice and firmly, strumming all 4 strings. Now that's an F, okay? You might find that some of your fingers are stronger than others. Normally our first finger is really strong when we're first starting out. It's the finger that we use a lot. And our other fingers are a little bit weaker. Alright, but don't let that put you off. We're going to build those other fingers up as much as we can so we can start playing these chords really well. Now the last chord is a G, which looks like this. A lot of people get scared of the G, okay, because it's got 3 fingers in there, 3 notes in there that we need to think about. Don't worry about it. We're going to break it down, we're going to make it really easy to understand. So there's our ukulele, there's our G, and let's have a look what we've got there. On the second string down, we've got a finger in fret number 2. On the third string down, we've got a finger in fret number 3. And on the bottom string, the very last string, we've got a finger in fret number 2 as well. It looks a little bit like a triangle, but we'll get into that in another lesson, because I like to use shapes to memorise my different chords. Alright, but that's for another lesson. Let's do this. So, we had our first finger, that's going to go onto the second string, fret number 2, right in between the metal bars. Now, I'm going to put my third finger, so that's finger number 3, in fret number 3 on the next string down, and underneath that I'm going to put my second finger in fret number 2 on the very bottom string. So it's 1, finger number 3 and finger number 2, and with this chord we still strum all 4 of the strings. Alright, so 1, and you've got the third finger and you've got your second. It's a bit like Twister with your fingers, this one. Especially on a ukulele. It's harder for me, so I've got bigger fingers, bigger hands, and you've probably got smaller fingers and smaller hands, and you can get your fingers around that a little bit easier. Now, this is quite a difficult chord to play, so you've got to practice it, okay? Don't give up on it. But once you get there, and you get it sounding good, it's a really good sounding chord. Now we've got all of the chords there, alright? We have the C, we've got the A minor, we've got the F, and we've got that G. Now, I would like you to practice those individually. I want you to practice them one at a time, and I want you to make sure that when you're playing each chord, it's got a nice clear sound to it, and you're working on your finger strength, pushing down on those strings as hard as you can. And to begin with, it is going to be a little bit uncomfortable until you build the strength up in your fingers, but I want you to stick with it. And when you feel like you've got those chords all sounding great, one at a time, I think it would be time to go through something called a chord progression, which is basically taking all of those chords and we're going to play them one after another. Alright, so we're not just going to strum each chord once. What I'd like us to do is to strum each chord for 4 strums. So a chord progression, if we were to write it down, might look a little something like this. Okay, so we've got our chords, and then we've got these slashes after the chord. Now each one of those slashes is a strum. So you can see we've got C, and we've got that for 4 strums, G for 4 strums, A minor for 4 strums, and F for 4 strums. So that might sound a little something like this. We've got a G, A minor, then an F. A little bit faster. So we're taking all of those chords that we've learned one at a time and we're putting them together now. Alright, this is something that we need to build up to though, so focus on the chords one at a time first and then try this out. Alright, now the difficult thing with this, or the thing that you might find a little bit tricky, is the change from one chord to another, and that takes time and it takes practice to get our changes nice and quick. But let me take you through how I change from one chord to the other and some tricks that you can get to get those changes a little bit faster. Alright, so starting off with the C, which is the easiest chord on ukulele. we're giving that a strum. Okay, now the next chord is a G. Alright, what I want you to focus on when you're changing chords is one finger at a time. I don't want you to think about all three fingers at the same time and putting them all down at the same time. Take it one finger at a time, and you will find that that's the easier way to do it. I think it is anyway, but try it out. So if that was our C, alright, I'm going to focus on that one finger at a time. I'm going to focus on my first finger and put that where it needs to be, which is up on the 3rd string up, fret number 2, and then I'm going to let my other fingers fall into place. So there's our C, and I'm taking that first finger up, putting it on fret number 2, 3rd finger on fret number 3, and 2nd finger on fret number 2, and giving that a strum. If we were to think about all 3 fingers together, it could, you know, it's a lot to think about, and you might end up placing them on the wrong frets and on the wrong strings. So don't get ahead of yourself, take your time. Alright, got the C. You might want to play the C with your 3rd finger, because if you do, it's quite easy to get to the G after. Alright, but I'll leave that choice up to you. I like to play it with my 1st finger, alright, because that's how I learned it. And then we're going from the G to the A minor, which is a really easy change, because we're going to focus on that 1st finger again, and we're just going to bring it up to fret number 2 on the top string, and we're going to give that a strum. So C, G, A minor. That's an easy change, and we're just going up. Alright, and then we're going to do the F, which is, I think, another easy change. Again, I'm focusing on that 1st finger and bringing it down to where it needs to be, which is the 3rd string down, fret number 1, and then I'm going to bring my 2nd finger up, sorry. So there we go, so I went from an A minor to an F. Again, what might be an easier way or a quicker way for you to do this is when you're playing your G and you're changing to your A minor, play the A minor with your 2nd finger, because then when we'll come around to playing the F, you've just got to put your 1st finger down. Alright, so let's go through that chord progression again, but we'll do it the easiest way that I think you can and the quickest way that I think you can. Playing the C with our 3rd finger, bringing it up, there's our G, 4 strums, then we've got the A minor, we said with our 2nd finger, and we'll place our 1st finger down for the F. Alright, so like I said, when I first learned ukulele, I learned to play those chords with my 1st finger and the A minor with the 1st finger. But actually, it is a lot easier for you, because you're first starting out. You can learn these things, you know, from the start. Play the C with your 3rd, and the G as we do, A minor with our 2nd finger, and just put the 1st finger down for the F. Alright? And with these chords, you can put them in any order that you want to as well. Make your own little chord progression up and write it down. So I've done C, G, A minor, F. You might want to change the order and make your own little strum pattern and your own little chord progression, and that's totally up to you, and I think that would be a really good thing for you to do actually. So they are the 4 most basic chords that we can learn on the ukulele. Alright, so I would like you to practice them individually. I'm going to put a link in the description of this video to some chord diagrams and chord charts that we've used today, so you can maybe print them out at home or have them on the screen on your phone or on your iPad or on your computer, and you can use them to practice your chords, because we've taken you through the chord diagrams and you know how to read them and you know where to put your fingers, you know how to understand them a little bit better, and you can maybe even learn some new chords because you've got that knowledge and you know how to read them. So keep practicing, guys. Pick up your instruments, try and practice half an hour a day. Alright, that's all you need to do, half an hour a day or half an hour every other day, and you know, stay creative, and keep practicing your instrument. And I'll see you in the next video for your next lesson, for your next ukulele lesson, when I'm hoping to be teaching you a song rather than teaching you the basics. Now that we know them, we can get on to learning a song and having a bit of a sing-along. If you've got any recommendations, if you've got any kind of songs that you'd like to learn, that you're really interested in learning, drop us a comment on the video, and I'm open to suggestions. So please do drop a comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and stay up to date with all of these great videos from all of the tutors that you know from school. Alright guys, take care. Bye.